Muhammad was born in the year of 570 AD in the town of Meccan, a, mount, a mountain town in the high desert plain of the western. His name delivers from the Arabic verb hamada, meaning to praise, to glory. Muhammad was raised by his mother Amina, who was keeping with Meccan tradition, and trust her son at an early age to a wet nurse named Ham'i from the nomadic tribe of the Sa'im-Bar. He grew up he grew up on the hills country learning their pure Arabic. When Muhammad was 5 or 6, his mother took him to Yarpit, an Oasis town a few hundred miles north, and stayed with his relatives. Also, he visited his father's graveyard. On the return journey, Amina took an ill and died. She was buried in the village of Abid on the Meccan-Medina road. Hamid, his nurse, returned to Mecca with the orphan boy and placed him in his protection of his parental grandfather. In this man's care, Muhammad learned the rudiments of statecraft. Mecca was Arabic's most important pilgrimage center, and Allah meant its most respected leader. He controlled important pilgrimage, conquering and frequently over Meccan's council of leaders. Upon his grandfather dying in 578 AD, Muhammad, aged about 8, passed into the care of his parental uncle, Abati. Muhammad grew up in an older man's home and remained under Abid Towi protection for many years. When young boy Muhammad worked as a shepherd to keep his uncle was the modernistic means. In his teens, he sometimes traveled with Abante, who was a merchant, canvassing to trade centers. On at least one occasion, he said to have traveled as far as north as Assyria. Older merchants recognized his characteristics and nicknamed him El Amino, the one you can trust. In 940 AD, in his early 20s, Muhammad entered the service of a wealthy Meccan merchant, a widow named Kaja bint Kalbi. The two were distant cousins. Muhammad carried his goods to the north and remained with a prophet. In 595 to 906 AD, impressioned by Muhammad's honesty and characteristics, Khaja eventually proposed marriage. They were wedding in about 595. Muhammad was 25 and Khaja was nearly 40. Muhammad and Khaja had 6 children. 2 of them died. They were both their sons, and the other 4 daughters were alive. Mecca proportion to becoming a wealthy off-trading center in hands of an elite group of a clan leader who were mostly successful traders.
Let's do this, Deyby. In 610 CE, Muhammad receives what he comes to believe is first visitation from the angel Gabriel and revelation from Allah. In 613, Muhammad began preaching Islam in the public of Mecca. In 615 CE, friction with the Quraysh causes some Muslims to leave Arabia for Abyssinia. In 619, Qajid dies. 620, the night journey Prophet Muhammad is carried from Mecca to Jerusalem and then traveled to heaven and meets previous prophets Adam, Noah, and Moses. The Hijrah. Muhammad and the Muslims flee to Mecca and Medina. In 622 CE, in 624 CE, the Naka raid. These raids were not solely designed to exact from the people who had rejected the Prophet who had arisen among them. They served a key economic purpose, keeping the Muslim movement solvent. After that, in the next battle of Badr, the Muslims overcome great odds to defeat the pagan Meccans. After that, Muhammad and the Muslims besiege the Jewish Quinago tribe and exile them from the city of Medina. In 625 CE, in the Battle of Uhud, the pagan Meccans defeat the Muslims. After that, the siege and exile from Medina of the Jewish Nadir tribe. In 627, in the Battle of the Trench, the Jewish Quraysh tribe betrays Muhammad. After that, the execution the males of Quraysh tribe and enslaves the women and children by Ibn Matub. In 628 CE, Muhammad concludes the Treaty of the Hudaybiyah with the Meccans. After that, Prophet Muhammad and the Muslims besiege the Khaybar oasis and exile from the Jews from it. After that, the Muslims prevail in the Battle of Hunain and conquer Taif. Then Muhammad becomes the ruler of Arabia. In 631 CE, the Arabian tribes remaining outside Islamic rule accept Islam. After that, there is an expedition to Tabuk. In 632 CE, Muhammad dies in the city of Medina on June 8th. The end.